Thank you so much for tuning in to Thinking That Matters. I'm Elizabeth Mahusai, your podcast host, and I am here today with my friend and CEO of Meals on Wheels Collin County, Marzella Tyson. Welcome. I am so glad you're here.
Oh, thank you, Liz. It's a joy and a privilege to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely. I would love for you, so that you can lay the foundation and some context for our conversation, tell the audience, a little bit about who you are, what you do, so that they understand the perspective that you're bringing to the show.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Zella Tyson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director for Meals on Wheels Collin County. And it's an honor to serve such an incredible mission. Our mission is to combat hunger and isolation, and we strive to keep our seniors in their homes, in their families, and in their communities. It's a mission that was created about in 1976 from an incredible group of faith-based believers and who came together. And at that time, their goal was to provide a small number of meals, and it has grown from 100 meals to over 500,000 meals. And it only shares the need that we have within our county. And not only do we provide the meals, but we want to make sure that around those meals is the opportunity to be able to combat isolation. And that's the other part of our mission. That mission is so important because if you don't combat isolation, people are not going to eat. So we want people to always remember that. So we have a twofold mission.
I'm appreciating that. It's something that when you said that, because you were so clear on the mission of Meals on Wheels to combat hunger and isolation, the fact that you've connected those two. For you personally, how have you seen isolation impact our senior population?
I think the most evident time where I've seen isolation impact seniors has really been during the pandemic. It was the darkest time, the scariest time, and that population was at the greatest risk. Out of that came some of the best opportunities for developing practices or high risk, to be able to impact high risk populations for organizations like myself. We came out with the best emergency preparedness plan because we had to learn how to address isolation when indeed that's something that we were combating, and they were experiencing a time where they had to be in and they couldn't be around anyone. So that was the most difficult time. But since that time, it took 2 years to be able to continue to serve those seniors and develop strategies where we would keep them safe.
Yes.
But after that time, we understood how important it was for us to connect and how important human connection was for our seniors.
That it is so important, that human connection piece. And I think it's one of the things we're still seeing the ramifications of the pandemic, even 4 years later, of how it impacted people of every age, that sense of being isolated, right? So it's interesting. I want to, in some way, put a pin in that isolation, because I believe that getting people on board with the mission that you have of combating, yes, hunger, and also isolation, it's tapping into their recognition of how hard isolation was.
Yeah, absolutely. When you deal with a public health problem, you can't deal with the problem, just isolate the problem by itself. There are dealing with or successfully impacting problems, especially with a certain population, you have to look at interventions and approaches holistically. So in order to feed people and get past the crisis approach and get past the Band-Aid approach, you've got to look at what's the underlying root, what's the impact of all of that, and what else is it causing? Because if you have someone they don't have the support, they don't have the family members, or they have been on our meals for a year and they haven't seen anyone they've only seen our face once a day, and during the holidays there's no one there. That becomes very clear how important you are to that person. That's why it's important that when you are volunteering in a program or in an organization like this, and you become an ambassador, you not only become an ambassador to deliver a meal, but that part when we talk about delivering hope, that's really the part that we're talking about, because there are a lot of meal programs, a lot of boxes of food going out to address the Band-Aid approach, but how about keeping people in their homes, their families, their communities, and you do that because you're making that human connection, because you're seeing them, because you're saying, hey, I care about you. And people don't care till they know how much you care.
Yeah, it's so true.
And when you see them and they show up at your door and you take the time to do that, well, they care about me. I can live one more day. I can be here one more day. I can't wait to dress up to see the person that's coming to see me that day.
Yeah.
And so it means a lot.
Meal.
Yes, to deliver that meal.
So I would love to know, even if you gave the Cliff Notes version of this passion that you have for the role that you play, what led you to this passion for Meals on Wheels and really living out, really helping this mission to carry forward?
I'm a Southern girl, so I was raised in a small town in Arkansas, and there was a trauma in my family. My father was killed at an early age.
Wow.
And during that time, I remember my mom having to struggle, and I wanted to, at that moment, I realized I had a strong grandmother who took me to church every Sunday. And that grandmother taught me the values of what it means to be able to help others and what it means to have integrity. And I saw around me the need for education and the need for support for others who were struggling and who were in poverty. And I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to change the situation. And to me, it was generational. It was something that I believed, based on my faith, that connected, which are, basically I see as my roots, and I thought that I can make a difference. So the thing that led me to Meals on Wheels Collin County was the same thing that led me to go to college, and that was to be able to believe that I can make a difference, to pursue a higher education gave me the tools that I needed to make that difference. I could get a little bit further if I could learn more about it.
Yeah.
But after that, the connections that I would make after that, what could I do? How could one person like myself coming from a small country town make a difference? Public health was the area that I started to focus in because it impacted so many people. And public health at that time, we were dealing with a lot of issues around AIDS and a lot of issues around infant mortality and healthcare insurance at that time. And I was able to be fortunate enough to work with, have the opportunity to work with the Connecticut state legislature on some healthcare access bills. And there I learned how you could make a difference and a change. I learned that a voice mattered. I learned that with the stroke of a pen that you could change lives if you had the right advocacy.
Oh, that's so important. Now, understanding the power of whether it's the pen or the power of one's words or taking action. I'm hearing, there's some of the themes I'm hearing in what you are sharing. So knowing that I appreciate you sharing that your dad died at an early age and the trauma that ensued as a result of that. When you think about your journey, if you would be willing, what would be some of the limiting beliefs that you personally, as a woman, have dealt with, needing to overcome? And I would love for you to share ways you found effective in overcoming those limiting beliefs. What would you share?
Well, I think the number one thing is getting past myself.
Tell me more.
One thing, and basically having the belief in myself that you have to have a belief, starting off that you deserve to be in the room, that you deserve to be there, you deserve to be at the table. Having that belief, but if you have to have that confidence that there's something behind that is causing you. It's not an ego or anything, but it's something that you need to believe in that puts you at that table. Why are you doing what you're doing? So some of the limitations that I struggled with was that I didn't have that right up front in the very beginning. And if you don't have that, and you have to command the presence when you walk into a room, you don't realize. I didn't realize at the time that I had a presence. I either could go. That presence could be either positive, or that presence could be either negative.
Yes.
I chose to go in the positive direction, which was basically that I had gifts and talents that table needed. And I was there, and there are voices that I needed to represent. And if I don't speak, regardless of what my gender was or my background was, those people or those things that I represent may not be put on the table. That might not ever be there. I'm the one. I believe that if I'm at that table, I have to represent.
So someone's listening and they're thinking, okay, yes, I know I deserve to be in the room, and I know I need confidence, but I struggle to take the first step. I struggle to speak. What would you say to encourage them to take the first step?
Well, the thing is, it's important to have what is motivating you. My motivation basically comes from my faith background. I believe that, through my faith, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You have to have, and some people call them affirmations, and some people call them, you have to have something that you stand on. My scriptures that I stand on, 1 Corinthians 13 chapters, is though I speak with the tongues of men of angels and I have not love, it profits me nothing. Everything that I do has to be focused around the motivation of love. If I can get everything around love, then I know I'm going to lead right when I make a mistake. I know I'm going to speak to that person right. I know I'm going to advocate right if I can do that. Even if that person is someone I don't love, like physically love it, or just love. But I know through faith and through Christ, I can love my enemies. I can love those that use me. I'm not doing it, but it's the grace of God that's doing it.
I so value that, because I think our culture has so attached love to an emotion, and scripturally that is not
absolutely
that's not in alignment, right, with what we see in Scripture, because that 1 Corinthians 13, talks about love is patient, love is kind, love does not keep record of wrongs, it does not boastful. I mean, it's all of these pieces, and that I also appreciate so much that you said that when you're focused on, I will say, loving as Christ loved, right? Which wasn't based on emotion, right? He gave his life for everyone, including those who hated him. And he did that, with a motivation to make a difference in the world. But my point being that we can love as Christ loved when we're keeping our minds focused on that, and how you connect it to what you say then is impacted. How you show up is impacted. I think that's so incredibly powerful. Speaking of showing up and deserving a seat at the table, the percentage of female CEOs in our country is not nearly high enough. So I would love for you to speak to what that's like being a female as a CEO. And please hear me, for the viewing audience. I look forward to the day where we're not designating female CEO or male CEO. We're just talking about CEOs. But speak to that, because I know it's not easy being a female CEO. So I would love for you to share a little bit about your journey there.
Well, it was surreal when I took the role. Being a female, one of the first things that happens is that it's sort of like being asked to build houses, brick houses out of straw. And
tell me more about that.
Can you do that? Can you do that? That's what I walked into. And
you were being asked, can you do that?
Yeah, can you do that? And basically, that is, can you restore a significant amount that has been lost? Can you recover reputations? Can you fix broken bridges? Can you do these things? And one of the things that, and then being able to see if you're going to shake with all of this. How are you going to
Hold
deal
up.
with the pressure?
Yeah, the pressure.
How are you going to hold up under that? I think a great deal of what I depended upon was I had to surround myself with people that were leaders of integrity, that were seasoned. I read a great deal about people who've gone through situations, and because having a ministry background, it was all about serving. But at the end of the day, in my position, I had to remember, just like with anyone else, with any other resistance, going into an all-boy type of club, sort of at times, and being there and being able to speak up. If you didn't speak up, you would not be heard. And when you speak up, and even if you're not sure of what you're going to say is going to mean anything, always speak up, because it will mean something, and you will be respected for that because you are speaking up. Sometimes you think that you're not going to say something that's going to mean something, but it really does. And the moment you speak up, the moment it comes to you that you need to speak up about something, that's one of the first things you need to do is to do that, and do it quickly and get it out the way. And once you've done it, you're pretty much in that game.
No, that's so important. One of the things that I'm super passionate about is how the brain can be rewired. And part of what we see in brain research is that people tend to think, I need confidence. So to use your example, I need confidence before I can speak up. But when in fact, you need courage to speak up.
Yes.
And because you courageously choose to speak up, you gain confidence.
Absolutely.
And you literally were articulating that without saying it in those words. Mm-hmm. But I always like to remind people that courage precedes confidence.
Outstanding.
And I think that's so important, specifically for females in a CEO role, mm-hmm. because there is that sense. I thought it was very interesting where you posed it as the question, can you do that? Can you do that? There's a question of, are you capable? Will you crack under pressure? Mm-hmm. All of those pieces. And so the need to be courageous and build that confidence. And what's interesting is, as a female, so maybe you may even have an example of this. I don't know, so no pressure on that. But I just think even for men, when they see you as a female being courageous, speaking up, they themselves are developing confidence in your ability mm-hmm. to do what you've been asked to do. Tell me if that resonates with you.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. You brilliantly said that, because one of the things that I've found is that emotion is one of the things people in this position as a female, if you show any emotion, or if you think that if I show emotion, then they will think that I'm weak, when in fact God created us and our emotions, and being able to use them the right time and how we need to use them. It's when your emotions are out of control. We are all emotional human beings, and emotion is not all bad. It's very important that we understand how to control that. But I did have to make sure that I did not have my emotions there to make decisions for me, and that I came in definitely with a lot of fact. And so I think that, I'm just trying to remember the question that you just asked me about, and making sure that I answer that question.
That's okay. I think
I'm focusing on that.
I think even what you said, though, is incredibly important. What I was saying is that men gain confidence when you courageously speak out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that. I love seeing. I noticed that, and I found that, and I noticed that I noticed a camaraderie afterwards.
Okay.
And that being able to be included and care about what you have to say and want to know your feedback. That's what I've noticed. What I have learned to some of the other struggles is that some men would prefer being led by men. And I realize that and understand, and I know that because, especially sometimes in ministry, a lot is there, and for that, so I try to get an understanding. A lot of times it comes from our childhood, and I try to get an understanding of where this person
Is coming from.
Yeah. And when I am leading, because what happens is that a lot of that impacts communication between you and that person. Getting understanding is the most important thing in this role that I have learned in this position. In terms of leading in this position, it's very important that you have an understanding and that you execute based on that understanding in relationships, decisions that impact the organization, liability. It's very risky when you don't get an understanding of behavior.
That is so true. Just the risk factor of choosing to barrel forward without having a strong understanding of the people that you're leading. And in some ways, I think, we just have to really ensure that as women, we're taking the time to do that, whereas a man will just step up, and oftentimes, not all of them, but oftentimes they will, because just of they're communicating on a similar wavelength where that's concerned. So I'm very much appreciating that. So one of the things, so when I saw you recently, you were telling me about that you all find yourselves now as an organization in a space where you're always looking to raise money, right? I mean, you're a nonprofit. But I wanted you to share with the audience, particularly about some of the needs that you're having now, because I just want to go back to something that you said. Founded in 1976, 100 meals to 500,000 meals. Is that in 1 year total? Tell me about that.
Yes. So right now, our goal this year is 630,000 meals.
Wow.
We did 500 and a little bit over 560,000 meals.
Last year?
Last year. This is, our fiscal year.
Yep.
And what has happened is that we've outgrown the facility that we're at right now, and the capacity to serve is very important in this county. The need is great. We project that 9,000 to 12,000 seniors are in need. We serve about 3,000 of them. We're getting about 3,000. We're headed
of the 9,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
okay.
But the need is so great that we have to make sure that we keep enough funding coming in and a sustainable model. And right now we're working with corporations like Toyota to be able to teach us principles like Kaizen, best practices that streamline our operations. We're basically using the existing facility and making improvements with what we've got. Nothing fantastic or big, but it's enough just to be able to maximize what we have, our services, the space that we have. Well, we've grown out of that space, and since that time, there have been some shortfalls with government funding. We do not depend on government funding. However, half of the organization is on government funding, and it's because of the Older Americans Act.
Okay.
And that's something good. That's the same act that Social Security comes out of. Home delivered meals comes out of it also.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And so this funding has been decreased, and that funding will end May of 2025.
Okay.
And it will impact 44,000 meals. And so we would need to make sure that we raise $330,000 to make up for that shortfall when that time comes. We do not want a waiting list, and we do not want to see, the last time I saw seniors on a waiting list, it was a terrible time because that was the number one thing that I had to deal with when I came on as a CEO, is to get rid of that waiting list. And when you're waiting, then you're suffering and you may not make it. So we don't want a waiting list. However, many of the Meals on Wheels across the country are being advocated for right now as being a priority because they do have waiting lists.
Wow, I see. So you're saying because you presently do not have a waiting list
Does not mean that we may not have it.
Correct, and
later
you're wanting to. Well, but what I appreciate the foresight that you're bringing to avoid the waiting list altogether. Thus, the really was one of my, as soon as you were sharing this with me, I thought we need to find a way to help people know about the need.
Thank you.
So that they're able to be a part of what they're doing, because not everyone can deliver a meal, but everyone could give something. So how have you all set up to assist people in being part of the Meals on Wheels Collin County mission?
Well, it's so great. I'm so glad you asked that question, because we have a number of ways that you can get involved with the organization. If you're going to give directly to the cause, you can go on the website.
Okay.
And it's www.mealsonwheelscc.org. You can also text to give, and that's one of my favorite ways. And I think that
that's MOWCC give, all one word, and you're texting that to 972-440-0443. So, and they can give any amount when they, so again, that's MOWCC give, so Meals on Wheels Collin County give, one word, and they can give that way. I know text giving, talk about technology and what we're able to do with technology these days.
True, is definitely, it's very important. It does help with a lot of our efficiencies right now, the technology that we're using. Other ways that we really love seeing businesses get involved.
Okay, tell me about that.
It's called corporate takeover. It was a concept that we created when we came on and took the leadership position. And you could come with your company of any size and be able to take over the kitchen and volunteer and be able to deliver the same day in your city or somewhere close to your job, and be able to be back, save a life within an hour to an hour and a half, come back, talk about it, and be able to have your company promoted on our website, and tell your friends and your family about it, come back and make that organization your organization.
Wow.
Yes.
That's cool.
It's
I love that.
We have hundreds of corporations that have been involved with us. And what we do is we exchange, because we like to learn what their business principles are and their best practices, and getting them involved. And then in return, they fulfill their social responsibility and also bring in their families and make that their nonprofit.
That's really cool. So there's a variety of ways that people can get involved. So I also happen to know that you have a gala coming, and who does not love getting dressed up and being a part of that? So tell us about the gala and the role that plays in funding the mission.
Well, this is our second gala. So the first gala that we had, it was very exciting, and we did not think that we would get the participation. We thought we would get some participation, but we oversold the tickets. We sold out very fast.
That's
very fast.
awesome.
Sponsorships went extremely fast.
Wonderful.
And the next gala is coming up in April.
No, March.
March
28th, 2025.
The last year's gala was in April.
Yep.
And we're having it Divine Grace Yard?
Vineyard.
Okay.
Oh,
Divine
yes.
Vineyard.
Yes.
Divine Vineyard. I'm so excited because we're really excited. This vendor has offered or donated the
huge.
Service. Yes.
That's huge.
So that makes that whatever we make that night will go directly into the mouths of the seniors. And
Wow.
we're so excited about that. So that gala in March is going to be one of probably the most important galas events because of the shortfall that we're experiencing that's happening in May. But it is so much fun. It's so many people having a wonderful time, being able to support one of the highest risk populations, one of the most in the country. At the same time, dancing and enjoying themselves and celebrating just the achievements of those first responders, volunteers, everything we have done up until this moment. Many of the people that are there, it's really, they've done it because this community is one of the most generous, kindest, amazing communities. And McKinney is just, I'm proud to be a resident here because
Me too.
It is so giving and is so supportive. I love having my family here.
Well, that's awesome. And they can find out more information about the gala, purchase tickets on the website.
Yeah. Please go on the website because right now you can get your tickets. You can get your tables now. People are starting to buy tables now. And we typically have a celebrity or someone. We want to make sure that we have someone there and that name hasn't come up yet. But we will be.
It'll be coming soon.
It'll be coming soon.
Yeah.
But it's really it's really easy to buy a ticket on website.
Okay, good. And all the website information, and I'll make sure the text number and code goes in the notes as well. So if you're listening, watching, just look at the show notes and you'll see the information for that. As we begin to wrap this up, I would love for you to share how your faith has played a role in your personal and professional development, because I've heard you allude to it and you've referenced it on a couple of different occasions, but speak specifically to that.
Everything that I do in terms of leadership, I look at the leadership of Christ. He's my favorite leader to look at because I look at how he deals with groups. How does he deal with controversy? He's the best leader with that. How does he deal with communication? How does he deal with adversity? I look at how he does it. Whatever he does, I'll try to mimic the same thing with his grace.
Love that.
Not something that I think that I can do. When I do, when I lead out of his power, out of his ability, and not my own. In the mornings, and on Saturday mornings, I get up and I'll do a prayer walk. And at that prayer walk, it's all about me and him. It's all about us. That actually came about from the pandemic when we couldn't get around everyone. And so I kept those prayer walks going. And my relationship became even stronger when it came down to leading this organization. So the donations that we receive, we have a thank you. So it doesn't matter the size of the donation. It doesn't matter who gives that donation. We thank God for that donation. I personally write anybody that gives anything. And I believe that thankfulness, being mindful of thankfulness, is the most important thing. It's very important to me that I know who God is in my life. I know what he does. I know a lot of people praise God and they are very grateful for what God can do for them. And he does so much. And we're so grateful. But I want to exemplify who he is. I want to have his character, and I want to make sure that I exemplify his grace and most of all his mercy in every single thing that I do and in my leadership. And hopefully that someone will be able to see Christ in my life at the end of the day when I'm no longer here.
I love that. Look at Christ, right? And model leadership after him. Makes me think of the book Lead Like Christ, which is a great read specifically to what you were saying. Well, I've so appreciated. We could have a conversation for a very long time, so I'll have to have you back on the podcast for a future conversation. But I do always appreciate and want to ask each one of my guests to share why you believe it's important to cultivate thinking that matters. How would you encourage our audience?
Thinking that matters. Why is it important to cultivate it? Thinking that matters, because you're going to leave a legacy, whether you want to or not. And that legacy that you leave, you want it to matter. You want it to make a difference. Some people feel that when they're no longer here, that they're not going to be remembered. but that's not true. You can leave a legacy in your children, and you can teach them what matters, what's important. It starts early. That's one of the reasons we like for young people to come to Meals on Wheels Collin County, because we like to start early with teaching about volunteering. So even just giving of your time, your talent, and your treasure, it's very important that we learn that at an early age. Let's say you're not at an early age right now. Know that what you do right now, start right now, and start thinking that put your mind and set your mind on things that are good, that are true, that are lovely, things of praise, things of good report. Set your mind on things that take you out of that mindset where you think that you can't do. You have a can-do mindset, but you have to be able to put those thoughts in the right place.
Yeah, so
and
true.
You have control over that. And some people think that once once some situation or bad situation happens, it defines you, but it matters. You matter. I'm glad you had that question, because it was a year ago that my nephew took his life.
Oh.
And we were so shocked that we couldn't believe, how did this happen?
Yeah.
And were you checking on them, and who's checking? That's why we promote well checks. Well checks are so important. And a well check could be simple as basically, hey, how are you doing today? When you see your coworker, it matters. Yeah. And when you speak to them, or it matters when you smile, it matters. You may not know that, but you're leaving a legacy that maybe not you think that you're doing, but because you touch the lives of that other person, they're going to touch the lives of 2 or 3 more people. That's what
it's the ripple
I would
effect.
think. Yeah,
it's the ripple effect.
Ripple effect.
Man, I love that. And here is what my time with you today, I think about. You talked about the importance of really how your thinking sets the stage for the legacy that you're going to lead. And what I find inspiring is that you are living that out. I mean, so from the time that your father was killed at an early age, something that could have completely taken the trajectory of your life in a very different direction, but yet it spurred you to college, to pursue, to find your voice, ultimately to become a female CEO, to be in rooms that are predominantly male and find your voice, speak up, be courageous, be part of that, to really be a difference maker in what you're doing, and also the organization that you're leading. And so I am super grateful that, one, you live in McKinney, because we get to appreciate that. And I hope that those of you listening and those of you watching are truly not only inspired, but that you're empowered to go out and really think about what you're thinking about, and really hear Marzella's challenge that when you cultivate thinking that matters, you can actually leave a legacy that truly matters.